everybody. This is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR podcast. We're in the third week of the NASCAR offseason, but guess what? We're in the second episode of this week. With all the racing action and NASCAR news ongoing, Discussions with Dave breaks down more silly season news, full preview and predictions for the Turkey Derby from Wall Speedway, as NASCAR names of Andy Jankowiak, Patrick Emmerling, and Luke Baldwin take on the top modified drivers of New Jersey and from the National Mod Tours. Tyler Truex, Blake Barney, Jimmy Blewett, James Blewett, Andrew Krause, Jack Baldwin, Matt Hirschman, and many others are ready to rumble at the short track on the Jersey Shore. Additionally, our first look into the Snowball Derby, which will be ran in 2 weekends, interview with Josh Williams, Paint Scheme of the Week Part 2, NASCAR History Time, plus so much more on this episode of Splash of Gas. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Now for trivia question time. 2 questions for this episode. One for our die-hard Turkey Derby fans, and the second on the NASCAR side. First question, who has the most all-time wins at the Turkey Derby? Second question, who was the last NASCAR Cup Series champ to win the Snowball Derby? Answers coming at the end. Now for Discussions with Dave. Was announced on the 24th, Joe Gibbs Racing and Brent Cruz will be pairing up for the 2026 O'Reilly Auto Parts season. We saw Cruz have a successful run in 2025. Number of ARCA wins, several top runs in the Truck Series with Tricon Garage, almost won the Roval race there this past fall. No doubt about it that Cruz is an up-and-coming name in the sport for sure. When it was announced, Joe Gibbs said he'd be racing 29 of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Tour races in 2026, and I'm thinking, geez, they're not going to give him a full season? Even with Cruz lighting it up on the track this year, he's still a kid. Can't forget that. He turns 18 on March 30th. So there's a couple of races, super speedways, that he's not able to race due to the age restriction. Does sound like Joe Gibbs Racing is going to try to get Cruz an exemption to be eligible in the playoffs. You look at Joe Gibbs in 2025, Taylor Gray does rack up a win in his rookie season. Unfortunately, he was already eliminated from the playoffs at that point. I think Cruz is going to nab a win in the regular season. We know Brett is great on the road courses. When I was at North Wilkesboro, he was showing out in the number 1 truck. He also won Phoenix in the ARCA car at the beginning of the year in 2025 too. Does seem to be developing all the tools to make it to the next level. Excited to see what Brett can do next year with Joe Gibbs. Moving to news on the Truck Series side of things, Niche Motorsports announced that Tyler Reif will be running the 42 truck full-time in 2026. We saw Reif in the ARCA Series, Pro Late models, Junior Late models, plus some Legends stuff as well. He did win the 2024 ARCA West Championship, has that under his belt. Excited to see the young Reif in a full truck season. Believe the combination is going to bode well. This question did pop up in my head when I heard this news, as we saw the early departure mid-season that with Nice releasing Caden Honeycutt. Curious if that business decision had any effect on their 2026 driver lineup. Moving along to silly season news for the Daytona 500. Throughout the 2025 Xfinity season, we saw Thomas Annunziata make several starts with Cope Family Racing. was announced that Annunziata and Cope Family Racing will attempt to qualify for the 2026 Daytona 500. Cope will field the car with an alliance from Richard Childress Racing and an engine alliance from Earnhardt Childress Racing. From the outside looking in, think it's going to be an uphill battle for that team to qualify for the 500. I would assume that they would have to race their way into the Clash. But hey, maybe Annunziata can prove me wrong, put down a good qualifying time, and lock themselves in earlier in the week. Interested to see how that pairing performs. Next topic. Believe we mentioned a couple episodes ago that Jeb Burton will be returning to Jordan Anderson Racing in 2026, but I don't think we spoke about that they're going to have a technical alliance with Richard Childress Racing. In addition to the alliance with RCR, Jordan Anderson will be expanding to a 3-car full-time team. We know how well that team performs on superspeedways. Jeb wins at Talladega. This partnership with RCR is a slam dunk. We saw how good those Xfinity cars for RCR have been. Austin Hill, Jesse Love, on the superspeedways. Look at the wins they have amassed. Will sure be interesting to see how much this partnership elevates Jordan Anderson Racing. More Cup Series silly season news. Cole Custer will be returning to Haas Factory Team in 2026, but they will switch from Ford to Chevrolet. The Haas Factory Team and combination of when it was Stewart Haas Racing primarily been Ford. 2025 was definitely a learning team for Cole with pretty much a new team in Haas Factory Team as they switch not only their Cup car to a Chevy, but their 2 Xfinity, now O'Reilly Auto Parts cars. Haas Factory Team does also have a partnership with RSS. That's the family-owned team that Ryan and Kyle Sieg race for. We have seen Ryan be super close at winning these races in the past. He's a veteran of the Xfinity Series, being the only driver to run in each and every Xfinity Series race the entire time they sponsored the series. Pretty impressive, too. Does the partnership with Chevy help Ryan get into victory lane? We'll see. And now that wraps up this episode's edition of Discussions with Dave. The next driver we bring onto the show, we were just talking about his exciting news for the 2026 O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. A good buddy to the show as well, Josh Williams. Here's what Josh had to say. Next driver we bring on, a friend of the podcast, NASCAR Xfinity driver, Josh Williams. Welcome to the show again, Josh.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, of course. Last spoke to you on the show after Homestead at the end of March. A lot has happened since then. 2025 had a lot of downs and ups for you. Prior to the split from Colleague, you had 7 top 15s, 2 top 10s. Was completely blindsided by the announcement that they'd be releasing you mid-season. Couldn't imagine what you were feeling. Know several teams reached out right away. How was the first several days after the news for you as a driver in person?
Yeah, it was kind of random for sure. But I think it's just a situation that is going to work out better for us in the future for sure. But yeah, had a lot of people reach out to me, right afterwards. Multiple teams and team owners and drivers and retired drivers and respected crew chiefs. Had a bunch of people reach out to me, so it was good, man. To know that there's a lot of people that are on my side, and there's definitely more on my side than against me.
Gotcha. Glad that you can see the positives from that. You have several loyal sponsors that stuck with you through this change. What does their continued support mean to you?
Oh yeah, just all the sponsors were behind me, and they're looking forward to the future together, and building each year, and then making everybody better, right? So, Alloy Employee Services has been in the league for a long time, and they were a huge part of my successes in the past few years, and looking forward to having them again next year, and bringing Optum Health on board, that was really huge to have a company like that be on our side and support us as well. So, man, we just keep growing. We just keep growing our partners and growing our business, and it's cool to see a lot of people. Our sponsors, they get behind us. Not just have their name on the card, but to be a part of what we're building. Off the racetrack as well.
Heck yeah, a lot of good people over there for sure. Appreciate you touching upon that. From Indy to when you were back in the track in Daytona with Alpha Prime was a little bit less than a month. Must have and you've been in the sport for a while now. Obviously, you mentioned there's a lot of people reaching out. Was there anyone in particular that you leaned on during this time?
There's just a lot of people that wanted to reach out to me and make sure that for one, I was doing all right, and I was ecstatic. I was happy. I was ready to see, what was next. It just things just weren't working out where I was at in the first place, and that was going to be our last year at, with Colleague anyways. So I think it actually gave us an opportunity to move forward a little quicker. But Mark Martin, he reached out to me a little bit, and we talked some, and I think I just think they know, right? They understand the sport, because guys like that have been doing it for so long, and they've seen all this stuff happen before. And motorsports is tough. I mean, it's tough. There's always people looking to get what you have, or try to take what you've built and put it with someone else, or different situations. So it's cool to have some of the guys like that reach out and just say, hey, we get what's happening. Man, this is a tough sport. Just keep your head up and keep pushing forward, and keep doing what you're doing, and just be myself, right? And that's the biggest thing. Is I think people really enjoy the fact that the Josh Williams they see at the racetracks, the same Josh Williams they get every day. So
100%. I'm glad you had that support system, and pretty neat that some of the big names in NASCAR were reaching out to you. Between Alpha Prime and DGM, you make 9 starts to close out this year. Fast forwarding to this past Talladega, you were on the front row in overtime. Didn't go as planned, but you walk away with a P14 finish. Post race, you seem really fired up. How are you feeling after Dega this year? After the second time?
Man, really good. It's like people. Which, I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, every race we go to is tough, but you always have your people like, well, anybody can win on a speedway, which they're right. That is possible. Anybody can win on a speedway, but you have to be able to put yourself in that position to have opportunity. You got to read the lanes right. You've got to read the runs right. You've got to be there at the end, and I think me and Reed did a good job of executing that and put ourselves in position to be on the front row, and that's twice. At Talladega, the second Talladega 2 years in a row, we've been on the front row and and had some type of issue, but it's just felt good, just to be able to race smart and to put that car, up on the front row for a green light checker, just to have an actual shot at it.
Gotcha. Appreciate that insight. I've had Mason, Parker, and Brennan all on the show this year. Seems like Tommy, Joe, and Caesar are building something over there. How was working with those guys at Alpha Prime?
It was good. I've known them guys for a while, and we used to race against Tommy, and I was teammates with Caesar a couple times at DGM over the years. So it's cool, and I think they're trying to build something for the future, and it's super hard. I mean, especially right now. Everybody in the series is they're spending a lot of money. They're they're trying to find good drivers. I mean, it's just super tough all across the board. So I think they're doing a good job, and they do a really good job with Brandon. So looking forward to seeing what they're going to do next year with Brandon, and see if they can keep that momentum up they had last year.
For sure. Definitely seems like they're pointing in the right direction, just like you said. Know the offseason just started, but I've been very curious to what your plans for next year would have been. I was scrolling on Facebook the other day, and I see 92 days until Daytona, and there it was. Recently announced you'd be back full-time with DGM in the 92. You were with them from 2018 to 2023. You're from Port Charlotte, Florida. How does it feel going back home to DGM?
Man, it's super cool. I've known Mario for a long time. We used to borrow his hauler a little bit whenever we were ARCA racing. We had to go to a couple different tracks and not come home. Um, so we've been together for quite a while, and you know, sorry about that. It's just cool to be a part of them guys again, and they've done a lot of upgrading. I mean they've really put in the effort and the money and the work to make their program better, and I think me coming back over there and having some of the partners we have now, I think it's just going to elevate them even more. So we've hired some really really good people and good crew chiefs and good shop guys and road guys, and building some new cars. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's going to be a blast.
Heck yeah, same here. Really can't wait. You mentioned Rito. Reed Sorensen was announced. Your spotter will be going to DGM with you as well. I know you have a lot to say about Reed, but I think it's awesome that he will be joining you. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, man, it's super cool. Me and Reed been working together for a long time, and we talk pretty much every day. He's not just my spotter. We're really good friends, and have a good relationship. So it's cool. We know what each other's thinking. I don't have to question him, or we don't get into it with each other during a race and things like that. So it's nice to have that consistency, and just have that relationship with your spotter, because I mean that's huge. If you're, especially at the speedways and things like that, I mean a lot of things are happening, and you got to have that trust in the person on the roof to put yourself in position like we did to be on the front row.
Gotcha. You guys have been a good combination for sure. I remember going to Reed's driver appearances when I was in middle school at Pocono. So just really neat to see you two work with each other for so long.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man, and he's a heck of a race car driver too. And I've been trying to push on him to get him to drive one of my late models, but I haven't pulled it off yet. But I'm still trying.
Gotcha. Hopefully we see that soon. That'd be awesome. Your first year at college in 2024 seemed like it took some time for everyone to get used to working with each other at the beginning of the year. As we know, you're very familiar with DGM. 2026 season starts with Daytona, then Atlanta, two tracks you've had success at in the past. What have you been doing preparing for 2026?
Man, the biggest thing is right now is we're working on equipment. Working on equipment and parts and pieces and people. And then we've already have that relationship, right? And Mario understands me, I understand him, and a lot of the guys we've hired that I've known for years, and me and Steve Addington, my crew chief now, we hit it off right off the bat. The couple races I did with Mario there at the end of the year last year. So, man, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be super fun, and me and Steve get along well. We kind of have the same views on things, and about the cars and how things need to be. So we're ready to go, man. I wish we didn't have any downtime. I wish we could just go right at it.
I gotcha. Yeah. I'm ready for 2026 to start myself. You were about it before we started recording. Sounds like you'll be going out to Pensacola for some off-season racing.
Yep. Yeah. We're been doing a little bit of late model racing here. I went to the fall brawl with a couple cars, and we had three limiteds and one pro late model at the fall brawl at Hickory, and we're taking another pro car to the Snowflake down at the Derby. So I'm actually in Florida right now, hanging out with some family, and going to do a little Thanksgiving, and then after that we'll jump in the motorhome and drive up to Pensacola, and we'll be there from the 2nd to the 7th. So.
Heck yeah! I'm glad you can have some time with the family as well. Before that, you've been to that Five Flags before. I mean, any goals or expectations for the 100?
Man, I tell you what, we've got a new driver, and Ben Mack, which is actually Travis Mack's nephew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've been working with him for a little while now, some Legends car stuff, and then moved up to the late models here a little bit more, and he's getting better. It's going to be super tough. I told him, I said, man, I said, don't be concerned about, looking at the leaderboard and stuff like that. Cause I mean, there's, I've ran the Snowflake a couple times, and, you might be 28th on the board, but if you pick up a 10th, you'll go to third. So it's it's just super tough and a lot of competition. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's gonna be super fun, and it's a pretty cool event. It's crazy, man. I tell people all the time, if you want to go to one of the coolest late model races in the country, you definitely need to go to Snowball Derby.
Awesome. Hope to make it out there one year. Xfinity Series has ended as the primary sponsor at the end of last year, and it's going to be the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series in 2026. Up to this point, you've primarily raced in the Xfinity Series. What are some of your favorite memories from the Xfinity Series?
Man, just the people, right? I mean, it's a lot of the people who are from the Xfinity side. They're super cool to work with, and real nice people to hang out with and things like that. So, and they've done a ton for the sport, I think. I'm really looking forward to see what O'Reilly does for us. And, I think it'll be cool too. It's a good fit for our sport as well. So, man, it's just, it's been cool, man. It's been super cool to have them as a title sponsor for so long, right? I mean, it's, this day and age, it's hard to get consistency, with companies like that. So for them to put in the effort that they did and to be around as long as they did was something special, I think. So look forward to seeing what we do with the new sponsor here. And they got some big shoes to fill, but I think they're going to do a great job.
Same here. Definitely a great representation of the sport for sure. And last question, we were just mentioning, now the O'Reilly Auto Parts season is right around the corner in 2026. What are your goals for next year?
Just consistency. I think for us, we should be able to run the top 15 every week. And, some of these tracks that we've had success at in the past, I think, really put a lot of effort into those and try to get those good top 5, top 10 finishes. So this series is super tough, man. I mean, there's a lot of competition, and, everybody's on a high level. So just for us, just having some consistency and, always being there to put ourselves in position to have a good day.
Awesome. Heck yeah, really, really can't wait for 2026 for you. And hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and then safe travels out to Pensacola, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. It's always a good time, man. And, looking forward to seeing you at track soon.
Heck yeah, can't wait. I'll see you then, man. Thanks, Josh.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
See you.
Greatly appreciate Josh's time. Seems like he is right where he wants to be and is ready for 2026. Now for Paint Scheme of the Week, Part 2, doing another classic, the 11 Busch beer car that Cal Yarborough drove, driving for Junior Johnson. Classic golden lettering, navy blue, Busch beer, white trim, just a tough car. Now for NASCAR History Time, with our main racing focus pointed towards the Turkey Derby in Wall, New Jersey. The closest NASCAR track is Pocono. Here are some of the more historic races from years past at Pocono. August 4th, 74. Richard Petty claimed victory in Pocono's first Cup Series race, and he did it in commanding fashion. The King led 152 of 192 laps and crossed the line nearly 19 seconds ahead of Buddy Baker. That win was one of 10 Petty collected that season as he marched toward his 5th of 7 Cup Series championships. July 23rd, 2006. At just 25 years old, Denny Hamlin made history by becoming the first rookie to sweep both Cup Series races at Pocono in a single season. He dominated the day, leading 151 of 200 laps. 6 weeks earlier, Hamlin had already pressed winning the Pocono 500. Those 2 Pocono wins were not only his first wins of his career, but also the only wins he had in 2006. Hamlin wrapped up the year third in the championship standings and earned Sunoco Rookie of the Year as well. June 26, 2021. Kyle Larson appeared to have Pocono wrapped up, cruising towards victory lane, until heartbreak struck in turn 3. A flat tire sent him suddenly into the wall, handing the lead to his Hendrick teammate Alex Bowman, who went on to grab the checkered flag. Now, our preview for the Snowball Derby. Early first look at the entry list for the Snowball this year. And man, are there some top-notch racers on this one. You got Cup Series names, Eric Jones, Kyle Busch, Noah Gragson, Ryan Preece, and even David Gilliland's going to be in this one. That isn't the only NASCAR flair. Johnny Sauter, Tristan McKee, Derek Kraus, Max Reeves, Caden Honeycutt, last year's winner. Got Dawson Sutton, Jake Garcia, Ty Majeski. We know how good Majeski can be in the late models. And also got some big names in the super late model world of things. Youngster Gavin Bichelle won the Clyde Hart Memorial in New Smyrna to start the year. Can't forget about Redneck Jesus, Bubba Pollard. Stephen Nasse, Florida's own, will be in action in the 51. Carson Brown's been on a tear. And can't forget about Derek Thorne, too. This year's Snowball Derby, folks, is really looking like it's going to be a good one. And the drivers will be roaring to go the first Sunday in December out in Pensacola. Now, turning towards the Turkey Derby at Wall Speedway, not only the Tour Modifieds on Saturday will be in action, but a lot of racing action from Friday to Saturday, all at Wall. 4-cylinders, legend cars, Wall Modifieds, factory stocks, limited late models, all on Friday. The second day, Saturday, got the TQ Midgets, All Pro Speed, SRTs, 602 Sportsman, and of course, the 150 laps for the Tour Modifieds to put the bow on the Turkey Derby. Drivers to look out for the Turkey Derby. Start out with the Baldwin brothers. Both run full-time on the Smart Modified Tour. We saw Luke make several starts on the Truck Series with Thor Sport. Excited what the young Baldwin brothers can do at Wall. New Jersey's own Tyler Truex, nephew of Martin Truex Jr., will be racing in the 11. Big fan of Tyler, going to Wall throughout the years. Andrew Kraus, another New Jersey native, very familiar with Wall, as we know with Kraus. Now we turn to the guy, big money Matt Hirschman. He's won the Turkey Derby not once, but 8 times. Can he deliver his 9th victory? Patrick Emmerling, Buffalo, New York native, a staple on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, and made several Xfinity starts this year. Even spoke to Patrick at Pocono. Had the next driver on the show twice this past season, Andy Jankowiak. See him run ARCA on the national level. Excited to see Andy run in the 73. Before we talk about his father, the operator, James Blewett, will be running the 76. And Jimmy Showtime Blewett will be in the 73. Excited to see Showtime back in action at Wall. I have vivid memories of, as a young kid, going with my grandfather to Wall. Remember multiple times, great races from Blewett. Sometimes he would use the bumper, but he would always get that checkered flag. Truly am excited to be going back to Wall Speedway. Gonna see a lot of friends out there for sure. Hope to see you there. Now, our predictions for the Turkey Derby. With so many top modifieds on the tight, short track of Wall, anything can happen in 150 laps. In the end, he is a youngster, but he's learned a lot, has a lot of grit too from a big racing family. Give me Luke Baldwin to grab the Turkey Derby. Now for trivia answer time. As mentioned, 2 questions for this episode. One for our die-hard Turkey Derby fans, and the second on the NASCAR side. First question, who has the most wins all time at the Turkey Derby? We mentioned his name. Winning the Turkey Derby a whopping 8 times is Matt Big Money Hirschman. Second question, who was the last NASCAR Cup Series champ to win the Snowball Derby? Answer is 2017, Kyle Busch. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are Splash of Gas with Dave Weicker. Hope everyone has a fabulous Thanksgiving with their friends and family. We'll be keeping you updated from all the action from Wall Speedway. We'll be doing a further preview into the Snowball Derby next episode next week as well. Till next time, everybody, Splash of Gas out.